Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this episode of the Bridging Impact Podcast. I'm your host, Justin Furtado, and in this episode, I interview Jason Crowe, former professional basketball player, transitioned into Truth Fund Youth Sports Education Director and head coach at The Wood. In our conversation today, he dropped some pearls of wisdom for young coaches who are aspiring to really make an impact in the lives of youth and men, women, people. So, without further ado, let's dive in. Hello, Jason, and welcome to the Bridging Impact Podcast. I'm thrilled to have you here today, talk about your experience as a basketball player and then making the transition from player to coach and mentoring and impacting the lives of youth, especially down here in Los Angeles. How we like to start the podcast is asking the question of what is your definition of impactful leadership, and then we'll dive in from there.
I like that question. Thanks for having me. Impactful leadership, to put it simply, would be having a positive influence on others. So that's something I'm real big on tangible items. So something that we can see that you can have a positive influence on others in their life.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, being able to see the tangible influence that you go and make. And so now that we have the definition, I want to back up and kind of go get to the story. And what we were talking about pre-podcast is how did you get into coaching and wanting to make an impact and positive influence on the lives of youth and others?
Well, I wanted to get into coaching. I stumbled into it. Coaching was something that I thought I wanted. I first initially, from retiring as a player, I thought that I wanted to work with guys individually in terms of helping them better their game, as far as being a trainer, things that nature. That's something that I love to work out. I love being in the gym. But as I got into that, as I got around players and organizations, I started seeing things that I wanted to do and how I wanted to do things was probably different than what was available. I wanted to provide something that was different than I was seeing. And was able to talk to Paul Pierce, and he backed me and supported that movement.
So when you were seeing these different things, what was coming up? What were some of those ideas when you were first introduced into coaching and you're like started to get your own? What were those ideas that you wanted to do differently?
Well, the one thing that I saw that there with the coaching, that there wasn't, the game had changed. So just to take you back a little bit, I was looking at how I played. Now we look at youth basketball as the vehicle for the kids to play now. Because when I was coming up, you can just go to the local park, you had adults there. That was a great development space because you were taught the game that way. Now the kids learn the game through individual training. And the game is a 5-on-5 game. So you learn the game individually, and the kids, we learn from game. And then we mastered our game from coaches who taught us the fundamentals and how to better our talents. So I saw that one phase was that you had, the players weren't working in concert. Everybody had their own agenda. And I wanted to take the pressure off of the players of that and to get back to the love of the game. Just play the game and then learn how to deal with what comes with the game, as well. Because as you become to get good, the situations, you get opportunities to play for better programs, you get opportunities to play. Now you even get high school scholarships to play for different high schools, you get college scholarships, but none of that is taking place while you're playing. That doesn't take place while you play. And a lot of the parents and the people, they haven't understood that this game is an expression. It's an expression of love. Sure that we had an atmosphere, and then the one aspect I felt was missing, because you had a lot of younger coaches and you had a new need, especially in my community, was the mentorship aspect. I felt that where you did have great coaches who were trying to, teach the game in its proper fashion, that, they didn't lack the element, of mentor. And that was a need for the kids, and especially in my community.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love for you to expand more on like the importance of mentorship when you're talking about in your community and just how you see it serving alongside and complementing, basketball training and skills, but the actual mentorship of coaches who have gone through it and want to mentor. I'm curious what your thoughts are on, the impact mentors can have on youth.
Well, I'm a product of that. And I encourage everybody who gets a chance and experience this podcast to go look up a documentary called Inglewood Morning Sessions. And it's about basically our high school team, but the focus is on the police officer named Lieutenant Scott, he's lieutenant now, Scott Collins, and the time and effort that he spent into us as young men. This is a guy that as a police officer, but he made it arrange for us to be at the gym and train every morning at 5:30 in the morning. And he was there, and he not only did he give us the basketball at 5:30, but he gave us, international house of pancakes at 7. We could eat free pancakes at the IHOP after we worked out. Now that's a blessing. But it was his love and his care for you because he steered us in the right direction because we come from, at that time, the gangs were very heavy. Gangs are not as popular right now. They're phasing out. That day, the gangs were very, very popular, and that's what we saw. That was the image we saw. We didn't see guys making it in sports, in scholars. We didn't see that. We saw, guys on the streets, and we saw that in the television and the depiction. So this guy, he came in and he did that for us by spending his time and giving time, his hours, letting us come to his home and leading us in the right direction, making sure that we had positive and developed positive habits. So I look at that, and I looked at that at what he did, and I feel almost compelled, to go back, me personally, and say, because I've been blessed to be able to go play all over Europe for 12 years, to go see the world, to compete, to win championships and do that kind of stuff and understand the benefit of the sport. So I just felt like this is, I wanted to follow in that in terms of helping young men realize their place, because this is the one thing that I say too. I say this, we are needed now to help young people creation of their vision. We can't create the vision for them, but they need somebody else to help them create that vision. They have to follow through, but we are there to help them create that vision that they can be successful in. That was done for me, so I think that's a big piece because these kids, these coaches now, they want to win. So they get players that can help them win, but they're not in tune to the mental health of the player. Well, this player has certain issues that if you address them, they could be fixed.
Right, it's the holistic development of the human, which is the basketball player, and so some of your memories from that officer putting in. I actually had a conversation earlier about there's a difference between being a boss and a leader, or a leader and a manager.
Yes.
The difference is, you can lead and people will come with you, or you can be a boss and a manager and turn your back and no one will be there because you're always telling people what to do. But if you put in that time and consistency and care and build those relationships, it's an opportunity to really go somewhere. So I'm curious, I'd love for you to, talk a little bit more about, I really like this idea of helping youth create their own narrative, but also making sure you empower them to follow through on those dreams.
Well, that's very important what you just said, because I like to refer to, so now I have several teams. I like to refer to my older team that I coach, it's not my oldest, but my 8th grade team. I like to refer to them as a leadership group. I like to think that we're trying to develop leaders. This is this is the terminology I use. I don't want to develop a ball player. I want to develop a leader. A ball player's in there, but leaders, because that's what you're talking about. If you work on a job, you want to empower people. You want to give them ownership of what they're doing. But you also want to mindset. Because one thing we know about being a leader, you're in the front, right? You can't hide your flaws. You're going to make mistakes, but you're in the front. That's one thing a leader will front. So now you have to be exemplary of what you want everybody, whether you're a teammate. If you don't run hard and you don't work hard, then you're not a leader because you don't want these guys to not. You want everybody to work the way that you expect. So that's really big. That word. I like to try to think that I'm trying to develop leaders.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I'm curious, honestly, for myself as a young coach and all the young coaches, teachers, and other young leaders out there that are listening to this podcast, when we're working either with students or players, like how do we develop and really be intentional about developing the leader in the human and not just the ball player or the student, but developing them as being leaders of their own group through their own strengths?
Well, that was a way I found to make everybody feel important. You know, sometimes we look at the ball players and some guys are just more talented. They have a special gift. Some guys can shoot better than others. So those guys generally tend to feel more confidence. But when you are in a leadership group, then everybody has to meet the character standard. So what we came up with was peace. Peace, PEACE, as an acronym, as 5 things that we want our guys to embody. So when you look at our players, then you want to see all these attributes in them if you're with them. And peace is preparation, energy, adaptability, communication, and ethics. So everybody on your team, from your best player to your last player, has an opportunity to. Everybody, a starter or whether you're, coming off the bench, you have the opportunity. You have to communicate. Communication is something that's lacking generation. We know that because of the technology, right? You can sit there. I joke all the time. I know what was going on the weekend. I would have to go to the mall and stand around and get conversations and do this. Now you look at your phone, tell you everything that's going on around the world. And I want to know what's going on. I want to know what's going on around my little 5-10 mile radius. I had to go to the mall and stand around and meet other kids and say what's going on. And hey, you guys having something? After the game and stuff like that. So. Now communication is something to be developed at a stronger level. We have to learn how to talk because we sit here behind the phone and we're able to find out more information than we ever have. So that's beneficial, but we still have to be able to communicate our thoughts, our feelings, and our needs to others.
Yeah, 100%. Honestly, I noticed that this week when I was subbing as a math teacher was like when they were in groups and I had to give them a little group assignment. And so some of them, that are friends, it's a little easier to socialize, but those that aren't friends, it's a lot harder to be like, I'm like, y'all got to communicate and work together, like this isn't going to get solved by yourselves. Like you guys got to work and talk. And it is like, I do notice that like the social skills and part of it has been because of the pandemic and screens, like we had to do school on screens for like a year and you lose a lot of that social, emotional, like relationship. Yep, that connection is so crucial. And I'm curious how you value and cultivate that connection on those teams that you coach.
Well, you have to empower people. So what I do is the pandemic was actually, as far as what I wanted to do as coaching, was beneficial because it brought a lot of new technology out. So now, like with my teams, we have Zoom twice a month. And we have different topics. I'll give you an example. The topic that we're dealing with now is improvement and for improvement of habits. So what you'll do is you'll have anybody of your kids lead that and speak. You have to call on different ones to speak. They get in the front of the Zoom and they'll speak about, and in fact you start off with them speaking about topics that they're comfortable with. And you get people that maybe are not as, the personality is kind of reserved, You get those guys to speak up more often. And now the teammates are like, man, I didn't even you know, it's
Yeah,
like
right.
jokes because they reserve like and do that. But what we're doing now with the habits, I have them taking 4 aspects of their life: their sport, their hygiene, their home life, and their school life. And I'm having them focus on 2 habits that they want to eliminate and that they want to, and it has to be something that we can measure. So, for example, you can't say like in school, like, "Oh, I want to be a better student." That's not. That, I want to be a better teammate. No, no. You have to have something there. Now you can say, "I want to stop talking in class," because that's a habit. Or you can say, for the positive, "I want to put 10 minutes a day to review and organize my work." Something, whatever it is, it's something that you can look at and say, "I've been doing the job, I haven't been doing the job." Something like that. So that's what we're working on right now. And then you get different guys to speak. That's what I've been doing with my team is we've been utilizing the Zoom as a way to communicate and be another locker room and like almost like a counseling space that we didn't have. So, think that's been very, beneficial to the guys to see other guys grow space.
Right, and you're living exactly what you're preaching in terms of empowerment and giving them the opportunity to speak and share about improving their habits. I'm curious, there's like the winning is such a big part of sports and culture and even in business and in life, but it's so important to work on these connections and empowerment and these habits. I'm curious, how has your philosophy helped, with the overall development of each player come onto the court? Do you have any stories that you could share that these habits have kind of transitioned into the actual like vehicle of basketball?
Yes, I do have one. I got a kid, and that's what made me want to do this because with the kids now, I saw that. What I saw too is I started off with high school kids first, so I should say that, and then I saw that at high school that it's almost too late with some of them because they hadn't defined themselves. They weren't sure of themselves. If you asked a kid in high school, you're like, it's time to get a scholarship now. So you're meeting with them, they think they're talented, they've been having success all along. They want my help to help them with relationships and scholarships. You ask the kid, what's his strength? He say, well, I get buckets, coach. And it's like, and then you're looking like, well, not at the next level. That's
Right.
so with doing this, I had a kid, Matthew, and Matthew came to us, and he was one of the kids that his birthday is in November. Okay. So he came to us in the 7th grade, but his birthday was in November, so we put him with the 6th grade team. So his basketball skills were average, below average probably. It was right. But when we started doing, and we started for him, because now this was time, how his character influenced his performance. So you had his, be like, this guy's done a 180, he's like a great brother, you know what I mean? And then his basketball game, he went from a kid that he was not strong enough to play on his age group. This kid's one of the best players every time he touched the floor. We realized that I'm going to play hard every time, and I'm going to understand how to be positive, how to bring some value outside of just scoring, and so he learned that, and now he's scoring more than he ever have. So he's the one of the guys who I look to in my program. I just say, look at Matthew. Look at Matthew, because he he adopted this stuff. You can tell with him because he hadn't had success, but he had desire. So he hadn't had success. So when he started hearing all these things that we were talking about, he was the guy that took the most to heart. He was like, we did the habit. He brought me his list, and I was like, no, go take it back and do. He said, no, coach, I barely got sleep all night, and I looked at what he wrote, and I'm like, well, this is it, But and I've seen that. So he went from not playing on his age group to being one of the better players in his age group. He's very good for our team, and our team is, it's not the best team in that. I'm not going to brag about that, but we're very, very good, very good, and better because he understands what we're trying to teach in terms of the mind and the mental preparation to help you handle your failure, right? Because that's where kids struggle, and that's where the mental health issues come into play. Basketball, if you're going to play sports in general, you're going to fail, especially if you're playing a competitive sport with a guy, like when I was playing, I'll never forget, I had this big laugh about this. Me and this guy, we became friends later on, and we were playing in Europe, and he came to me, and he was, because I was kind of older and had a reputation of being aggressive and being, playing hard defense and this type of thing. So he comes to me before the game. He's like, you're not going to, he's like, I'm tough too. And I said, so what, kid? Everybody's tough out here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we became kind of bonded over that moment. Like to this day, we're still friends. He lives in Mississippi. We talk, and we bonded over that moment because he realized what I was saying in terms of, God loves you, God loves me. But in this competition, me and you going to determine this outcome right here.
Right.
Sometimes you're going to play well, and sometimes you're going to fail. And the failure is what you have to be able to understand in order to have success in this business. Because everything is just not going to go.
100%. There's always going to be challenges and obstacles, especially in sports, right? You lose. Even the best teams, I don't know how many teams have no teams have gone undefeated. Even, you think about football and the Patriots, they lost in the Super Bowl. They're undefeated all up into there.
Right.
So everyone's always, you have to be able to come back from that. And I'm curious, what is your kind of philosophy? How do you instill that and work with youth on how to, also put yourself out there, because sometimes you don't want to push your comfort zone and make mistakes, but you're you got to make mistakes, and you got to be able to kind of push that boundary to keep getting better. But you're going to also fail and miss and lose the ball on when you're learning a new move. I'm curious, how you preach and teach that to the youth.
Well, that goes to the ethics. That's the last part of that E on the end, right? Is that you have to have the right attitude. You have to compete to win. But you have to be a positive loser. The one thing I teach my kids, when we lose, lift your head up and hurry up and get in that handshake line. The team may be celebrating, jumping for joy. We beat y'all. Right. You have to embrace that moment. You have to embrace that moment. And you have to show dignity and courage right there. You have to go get in that handshake line with your head up. And the one thing I tell them too is that you have to take care of what you can take care of, and then you won't be a sore loser. So, if you did the preparation, if you showed up all week, and you did what you had to do, then you have to be fine with your results. But
right.
When you don't do that, then you're not you're confused as a person already. And if you win when you don't do that, pretty soon you're going to collapse. It's going to happen. You're getting a false sense of what you need to be doing right here. So, so I try to just teach them that the character that you develop with that peace is going to carry you. It's going to carry you. And everything is not going to go the way you want it. But if you go out there, that's why so now we have to teach our kids to have fun I'm always preaching that. I'm always preaching that. There's no stress here. There's no stress here. There's no stress here. Let it go. We're always experience. Let's have, you know. So even in
Right.
defeat, you have fun because you put a jersey on, you know, and you can still have fun. And nobody likes to lose. You know, nobody likes to lose. You know, we're not encouraging that. We're not encouraging that. It's more about understanding that the losses, like you said, are inevitable. So we're preparing to move forward through that. You know, we're preparing the mentality to move forward through that. Not really about accepting it, more about moving forward through it.
Right. And the peace, the acronym peace is kind of the foundation of character and what you can control because there's so many things in the game of basketball, game of life that you can't control. You can't control the refs. That's why I always tell when I'm coaching, I'm always like, you're never going to have a good ref. You never. Like, if you do, count your blessings, right? But if you can, control the peace acronym and have fun and enjoy it because basketball is a game where you're throwing a ball in a hoop, and having a good time and have an opportunity to maybe get some scholarships or at the least, make some memories during your childhood and your
Make
youth
some
and then just have
memories.
fun.
Right. Yeah, that's that adaptability in there. So to the situation.
Yeah, it's always about being flexible, adaptable. So I'm curious. I'd love to learn a little bit more. You talked a little bit about it at the beginning about the foundation and the organization that you ended up working with Paul Pierce and starting and how people can learn more about it and support.
Yeah, like I said earlier, like you just elaborated on, Paul Pierce is very instrumental. He's been a big support because he comes out first and foremost. He comes out so much, gives his time to the kids. He had a party at his house last year. Was the first time we did that. I mean, we had 100 and some people at his house, and he had big old slide and stuff like that. So his whole thing with that too is because we recognize we're not trying to build pro ball players, okay? Recognize how difficult this industry is, but we understand that it's a beautiful because we had teammates from that Inglewood morning sessions. We won a championship. Well, me and him was the only two guys that had any type of professional career. But these young men that play with us, I'm calling them young men. We 45. I guess we are young. These guys are all great people. They're fathers. They work, and they do other things. And so he understood that the importance too of having a place where guys can. Yes, you will be challenged basketball wise. You will be challenged. You will be challenged. You'll be told the truth if you want to be successful there. But also creating this space where we can help young men in the community because of the fact that, and that's the other thing I left out, youth basketball, we talked about a bit earlier, youth basketball is extremely expensive. It's becoming an elitist sport, something like figure skating, golf, because just last week we had a tournament. It was $20 a day to get. It was a 3-day tournament because we have Monday games, and it was $20 a day to get in, right? That has nothing to do with the money you have to pay to your organization for gym costs, rental fees, and things of this nature. So this is very, very inexpensive undertaking. So you can just imagine the kids without the resources to participate are getting further behind, they're getting behind because they have a desire, but because you can't go to the park and get an honest game anymore, the park and recreational sports system is not what it was when I was a kid anymore, where you go there and you get quality competition. So we wanted to have this space like this, that where we can help kids from all areas though, not just urban areas who don't have the resources, because what I learned from doing this too is that every child, even if they have needs, And sometimes some of the kids from the most affluent areas, because their parents are expecting the money to cover everything, The mentorship is the money. Didn't I buy
Yeah,
you
right.
this? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
What do you
right.
need? I work hard every day, And there's nobody to talk to. There's no social interaction between the families as well. It's just a business with your child. And as a parent, sometimes you don't even recognize it because you think that you do love your child with all your heart, but you don't recognize that you and everything that you're doing is the child needs some supplemental mentorship to help you out as a parent, even though you have given them the world, as far as material things are concerned, and your love probably. But yeah, so that was a big thing where we got started there. And you said if anybody can help us, yeah, please do.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. If everybody can reach out to us, yes. We have to redo our website. We took that down because of the pandemic, and we never really got it back up because we had got over 100 requests to join the team. Everybody was asking me, and then the pandemic came. It was like we had to get in our bubble, so I didn't want to add anybody to that. So we haven't got our website back up and active, but you can DM us on Instagram. You can go to the Truth EYBL if you would like to DM us, and we'll give you information where you can, if you want to make a nonprofit a donation, or maybe you want to speak to the youth, or any way that you feel that you can help us, please DM us there, or you can reach out to me. I'm not on social media too much. I'm an older guy, but I am on Twitter at crowzone.5. If anybody wants to reach out and see how they can be involved in any way. Doesn't have to be about money. It could be about some resource that you have. It could be about, you're a speaker. You have some knowledge that you want to share. You may have some books you want to donate. Anything. We're all here for it. We're all here for it.
I love it, and I love that you're using the collaboration of people to further serve the lives. And just obviously, you touched on the important points of, basketball, right? Is it's a game, it's a vehicle, but it really is for the youth. They need this mentorship, this experience of course, the team with their peers, but also their coaches to guide them in the way of, okay, you talked about it with Paul Pierce. Y'all know, and I played high school basketball, right? But I wasn't gonna go pro. I rode the bench in high school, but it's still, I learned so much. I got so much mentorship from coaches and other sports as well, and just bringing those peace acronyms into their lives, whether they end up working in the business world or with coaching, whatever it ends up being. So I really do like that, and I love it. And one of the things I want to finish up this podcast with is, like, for the young teachers, young coaches, young leaders, what advice do you have for them all getting started in their journey?
This is what I try. When you're young and you want to make sure that you seek, you seek older people. You learn. You have to learn, and you have to see, and then you have to have your own voice as a young person. Young people are powerful. Young people are powerful, and you have, and us sometimes. I was younger, now I'm older.
Right.
First I said I was a young man, now I'm an old man. But me being experienced, I'll say experienced. I'm 45, been doing this now. We have to all accept and embrace the young people too. But have this voice and have this energy and have this passion. We have to make sure that we don't quell this and try to dominate that. So I hope that anybody watching this that is experienced, that they are, open your mind up and allow young energy to come through your program, because that's what keeps you connected, right? But as being a young person, just do it like Nike. I mean, the benefit to this is that you can do now whatever you want. This is America. It's one of the benefits. If you want to start you a program, then what I did, I studied the programs. I was with a program called Rockfish. I went on the road. I paid my own money. I volunteered coach. I watched the uniforms. I did everything. I didn't have an ego, and I didn't like what I didn't like. I put a note of it. You know what I mean? So I can do things differently on my time, but it's definitely important that you understand and also that you educate yourself. Best things I did is it was an accident, but I ended up going back to school in 2013 to finish my degree. And the I had to go back at that time was beneficial because I took a class and I learned the most important about coaching. You know, I was a guy that was a coach. You're thinking about coaching, you're thinking about your basketball IQ. You're thinking about, your experiences. You're thinking about plays and everything else. The guy told me, the teacher, he said, because this is a graduate level course on coaching, so he had a lot of coaches in the class. And he said, the most important thing about coaching, I'm going to tell you, is that you have to know your guys. You got to know your people. If you don't know your people, how do you lead them? And that seems so simple, right? That seems so simple, right? But from that's what I pour into it. I know everybody on my team, life kind of scenario looks like. I know what I can look at their body language. I can look at them, and because I know them, I'm able to reach there. I'm able to pull more from them. I'm able to coach them harder. I'm able to be more demanding because of the fact that I have already shown a desire to understand what goes on with you outside of whatever we're doing here. And that's something that a lot of when I was coming up. You got there, you shut your mouth. Now these kids, you have to, they're not going to, you say shut up. I mean, they don't, go somewhere else. And of course that hurts the kid. We're in the process of helping them. So you have to understand you can't talk to this kid like that, Or when you did, go have the conversation and say, look, you got to be tougher than that. You can't let words break you down. You don't know who you're going to play for after me. Everybody you play for don't love you like I do. This is a business that you want to go into. So you got to be able to know who you're dealing with. I think that is a very underestimated part of coaching because guys show up, you give them a team, they think about who's the better player, they put them on the floor. Then, I see sometimes even with AAU at the high school level, you got the directors or whoever's doing the recruiting, they recruit guys because they're looking for your performance, but when your performance doesn't go well, they're not there to provide support. They're like treating you like a professional, like, man, look, you ain't performing, we're gonna look for your replacement. You know what I mean?
Right.
Instead of trying to understand, and that goes on in college too, at the college level too. So I think that all young people, as you're coming into this, please try to, take some time out and get with another organization first. Check the landscape, be outgoing, have conversations that help you develop your own philosophy, of how you want to approach things. But no matter what your philosophy is and what it's about, please get to know your people. Don't make it a business. Don't make it a thing where these people they're a number, they're in and you're looking at their talent. Look beyond that. Look at, because they're going to perform better. They're going to perform better and you can get more out of them when you know who they are at the core as best you can.
I think, that's wonderful advice, and I got it written down. I'm recording this. I'm keeping it. I'm locking it away. I'm sharing it with everyone. So I appreciate that, and that's something that I definitely try and do. Is always try and give nugs to every single player that comes into the gym, and even if it's quick, just ask them how school is and trying to get to know them. I think it is really impactful because you want to play for someone, or you want to be a student for a teacher of someone that cares about you, and I think that's definitely like the number one thing all coaches should have. So I appreciate your time today, Jason. I loved our conversation, and I can't wait to get this out to the people.
No problem. You keep up the good work. You keep spreading the message. Keep doing your thing, Justin.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Bridging Impact Podcast. We'd love it if you would like, subscribe, leave a comment and a review on whatever platform you're on. It's the best way to help us grow. We appreciate you for doing that. We'll shout you out on social media. I'd also love if you connected with me on social media. Let me know your thoughts, and this is why I do it. I want to share knowledge and wisdom from experienced leaders to people like yourself and myself, so we can have this dialogue and move forward, make an impact on the world. So stay tuned, stay subscribed. Cheers.